Hello everyone, welcome back to Consciousness Rising, episode 7. I've had a bit of a tough time in life lately, so I'm not uploading as quick as I'd like. I've been making the slides, I've got 2 or 3 prepared, but I'm going to take it really slow and be gentle on myself at the moment. I've had a bit of a tough time, and I know many of you do. That's just part of life, we go through ups and downs. Life's a bit of a roller coaster. It tests us and trials us. And, I'm out the other end of it mostly now. But I've got some other stuff planned, actually. I've got so many plans in my head that I need to formulate. I'm going to be doing very soon, alongside these videos, because these videos are kind of like my main body of work, if you like, and my main teachings or offerings. I prefer the word offerings. I'm offering these to the world. I'm going to be doing some book readings. And the first book I'm going to be reading is one of the most important and powerful books I've ever read, and it's basically explaining natural law. Natural law is something you've probably heard me talk about before. It's really, really important. It's one of the most hidden pieces of knowledge in existence, and the best presentation that's out there to my mind is Mark Passio's Natural Law Seminar. I can't remember what year he did it. I believe it was about 2011, and you can find that on his YouTube channel, Mark Passio, or what on earth is happening. And he breaks it down. He breaks it down massively. He does a 9-hour presentation on it, and it's worth every second of your time. It's it's going to become one of the key components to what I'm going to be talking about in the future when I get there. A lot of my earlier episodes, such as this, have been on consciousness and the inner work of self that people need to do to raise their consciousness in order that we help people, because we go through stages. We have to understand the truth. Well, first we have to learn the truth, then we have to understand the truth, and then we gift it to other people. That's why I do this. I do this not for any money. I don't want fame, adulation. I'm doing this in the hope that some people may find these videos and become empowered and enlightened by them. You can be enlightened, but you'll never be perfect. That's part of life. I've studied at depth a lot of stuff, loads of different avenues of study: psychology, spirituality, sort of all sorts of stuff. But this is the way I like to make my videos. As I said, you don't need a presentation to do these. You can just talk. I like the presentation because A, it keeps me on track, and B, images have a powerful way of working on our mind. And that's another video that I've got planned. I've not made it yet, but I'm going to do a video on how imagery can be very empowering. I've been studying the tarot for the past year or so and getting quite heavily into it, and well, it's powerful stuff. Powerful stuff, tarot. And I'm going to kind of explain that in a future video. But yeah, I've got about 3 episodes of this coming up. The next episode, actually, episode 8, I'm going to go back to EFT, and I'm going to go further in depth of that, because I think the first video I did on EFT was just an introduction. I wanted people to understand how to do EFT. In my next episode, I'm going to talk you through very slowly the method to how to deal with trauma, because the reason the world's in such a mess is because so many people are walking around with unresolved trauma. Because as you'll see in my shadow work video, people with unresolved trauma, they go out and hurt other people. That's just the truth. And also, one thing I really want to make clear in this video, because this is going to be a dark video, there is no such thing as negative knowledge. There might be dark knowledge, there might be light knowledge, but it's all knowledge, and you have to look at the dark in order to understand it, so then you're armoured against it. That, like I said in my psychopath video, there are predatory individuals out there that will trample all over your natural law rights and will take things from you and will, steal your energy, your time, resources, whatever. You're just a thing. And we have to look at that. We don't hide from it. There's no good hiding from these things. We have to look at them in depth and then come to an understanding. So then we're armoured and we know how to deal with things. You don't just... It's like when people come for EFT, or I explain about EFT, because EFT has that element which I love, which is shadow. It has an element of shadow work to it, because when you're working with trauma, you have to relive the trauma. But the beautiful thing about EFT is you are using the energy, in your body's natural energy, through the meridian pathways, to work with it. You know, if you just ignore it, it will then become more and more suppressed. It's like you walk into a room, say in the right hand corner, there's 3 bags of stinking mouldy rubbish, and you just tidy the room and just keep ignoring those 3 bags. They're just going to get stinkier and stinkier. They're going to infest your wall. You're going to end up with mould on the wall and the ceiling. That's like the human mind. That's like, all this crap we carry around. We have to address it. We shouldn't be hiding from it. We shouldn't be running from it. It has to be addressed, because if it's not addressed, it will just keep showing up. It will show up time and time and time again. You'll be tested and tested and tested, because that's what the universe does. It tests you until you learn it, until it hammers it into your head. So, EFT is such a beautiful tool for working with that, and I love to give that knowledge out for free. Yes, I do have a private practice. I'm a practitioner. I take a small charge to get my needs met, but I don't charge people astronomical amounts of money. Because it's about meeting individuals and helping them with their issues. And these videos, I'm hoping eventually I'll have so many videos on EFT. You can just watch the videos, and I'll put them in a separate playlist. I'll have an EFT playlist, and you can just go in there and you can do that shadow work along with the energy psychology and resolve a lot of your demons. That's my gift. And all these videos, they're my gift that I want to share with the world. I don't want any money. I'm just doing this because I feel it's the right thing to do. Right, having said that, mind control. I'm going to start talking about mind control, because mind control is everywhere. Many of us have been under mind control. I myself have been under mind control. But once we start to look at it and we start to see these ideologies being played out on people every day, may I add, it's everywhere, we can, rise above it, or defend ourselves against it, and then empower other people to defend against it. Because mind control will go away if you know. If you know about mind control, you can't be mind controlled. That's why we have to look at dark material sometimes. Mind control is sometimes called brainwashing. It is a method used by an abuser to control someone else's perceptions and beliefs. It is done through coercive tactics in order to gain power and psychological control over another person or group of people, i.e. society. This is played out every day. You only have to turn the mainstream media on for 10 minutes and you'll see it. If you've got, if you've come to the point of awareness like I have, you can see it everywhere. Okay, there are many methods of mind control. These are just some of them. Now there's loads. There's absolute tons of them. I've broken them down into this. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. Religion. Religion, one of the biggest forms of mind control on the planet there is. And, tell me a lot of good that's come out of religion. It's a belief system. I don't want people to believe anything. I want you to seek to know and understand. That's what I did. Obfuscation. Divide and conquer, mainstream media / false information, gaslighting, time. Yes, time is a mind control method, and I'm going to do a video specifically on time, and I'm going to talk about mindfulness and how we can overcome that trap of time. Problem, reaction, solution, that's a big one. And indeed, the 5 sense illusion. We are more than what we perceive ourselves to be, or what we've been led to believe that we are. Okay, so what is gaslighting? Gaslighting is one of the forms of mind control and brainwashing, as I've said. The manipulator's main goal is to put the victim in a state of doubt about their own sanity. Because, what does it lead to? People in this state are much easier to control. And as I said in my psychopath video, there are predatory individuals out there. If you don't control your mind, they'll control it for you. Sad to say, that is the state of play, that's the state of the world, and there's lots of people out there that would love to manipulate others. And let's look at it. Let's look at how these people work, and then we can overcome it. The origin of gaslighting It comes from a 1930s play called Gaslight, and actually I managed to get hold of the film that's based on the play. It was made in 1940. There is a 44 version as well, and it's actually a very, very interesting film to watch. And that's another video I'm going to do. I'm going to start breaking down some films, because do you know what? Some films, they have deep, deep psychological knowledge in them. Not all of them. Some of them are absolute crap. But, you have to really sort the wheat from the chaff. In the story, it's about a man who tries to convince his wife and other people, indeed, that she is crazy. And in the film, he does things like he'll hide things from her and say, "Oh, you haven't been doing that, your silly behaviour again." He says something like that, and it's all psychological mind games with this absolute scumbag of a guy. But and it's a long game. They do it slowly to start with. They drip feed it in, and then eventually they try and make the person actually mad. He manipulates her and her surroundings, and then tells her that she's imagining it all. He keeps saying about her imagination in the film. It's a really interesting film. One example is when he dims the lights. So it's based in Victorian times, so they did have gas lights. That's hence where the term comes from. And he goes into this other apartment and he starts dimming it. And when she questions him about it, I think this is more in the play, but when she questions him about the dimming gas lights, he says, "Oh no, they don't dim. That's all in your head." And that's what I put. When she questions it, he tells her, "They're not dimming. You're all imagining it." So can you see how devious this behaviour is? And it's not just. It is played out in one-to-one relationships between a man and a woman, or whatever your preference. It doesn't really matter to me. One person can easily abuse another person like this, but it's also played out through the mainstream media, occasionally on the public. Okay, as with most forms of abuse, gaslighting will often start slowly and subtly, and then they start to ramp it up. Over time, the abuser will wear the victim down so much so that they question their own sanity. That's the end game, because then they're completely in that person's control. The abuser's main goal is to have complete control of the other person. So you see this is a complete predatory mindset and a predatory set of behaviours, and we've got to know about it. If the victim attempts to challenge the abuser, they will often escalate the manipulative behaviour. I find this really interesting. So if you think you're being gaslighted and you call them out, they'll often up the behaviour. They'll deny everything the victim says, so they'll say, "Oh no, absolute rubbish, I don't do that, it's all in your head." Because it's never about them, they're never the victim. It's all about putting the victim in a victim state. They want the victim in a victim state, because then they're easier to abuse and manipulate. They even bring up evidence to support them being right. Abusers of this kind, they're never wrong, because they're narcissistic or psychopathic. They're never wrong. It's never them. It's always everyone else, because basically they're scum. There we go. They will add to the previous lies, and then the victim becomes more and more confused and even doesn't know what is right anymore. Doesn't even know. Can you see how devious this is? It's like breaking a person down completely psychologically, and then they'll just do whatever you want, or whatever they're told to do. The abuser will sometimes give the victim superficial kindness and remorse. This is what they do. So, after a spate of gaslighting and doing this nasty stuff to them, they'll occasionally sprinkle in some niceties. "Oh, you're such a beautiful woman," or "You're such a nice guy," "Oh, this, that, and just to keep them sweet enough on side. And at the end of the day, like I've read, it's just more manipulation to keep the victim controlled. Okay, so you're talking about a dominator and a victim. The victim, this can happen a lot when I was researching it. So sometimes the victim may start to think that things aren't as bad as they thought, or that it might get better over time. How many times do you hear that in abusive relationships? I think he'll get better, or I think she'll get better. I think she just did it that one time. They won't do it again. But as I've put at the bottom, this just reinforces the codependent relationship. So the victim will be codependent on the abuser, which is evidently what the abuser wants. And there you go, I've done a slide on it. Codependency is defined as excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner. Now, what I believe is happening here, the victim is worn down so much, and so much is taken from them, from the narcissistic abuser, that they end up being codependent because they can't think for themselves anymore because they've been worn down so much, you know. And as I've put, a gaslighting partner will want their partner to be completely reliant on them, so it's a complete control thing. They may even make statements such as, "You wouldn't be able to survive without me." So they make the victim feel completely small, useless, and that, you know, if something happened to them, God forbid anything happened to the abuser, what would the victim do? Oh, they'd be in a hell of a state. But because this is played out over a long time, you can see how it can actually mentally wear someone down. Someone could possibly be, you know, quite a strong individual, have their own mind and that, but after being toxically worn down by this abuser, you know, you can end up feeling like nothing and feeling like, God, I've got to rely on them because I'm useless. It's all about a long game. It's a long psychological game, long psychological abuse that tears down that person's individuality and makes them codependent. Snuffing out light in others. And this is my last slide. Gradually, someone who's being gaslighted gets emotionally worn down. The sad thing is that an abuser can put out a victim's light. That is what it's all about, people. It's all about, because some narcissistic people, when they see light in other people, they want to snuff it out at the first chance they get. And it's because inside of them, they're empty. You know, psychopaths and extreme narcissists, they're empty inside. They don't have any inner dialogue. They don't have any individuality, any soul, any spark. So when they see that in others, that's threatening. So they want to snuff it out. You know, I used to work. I used to just talk. I don't like, you know, talk a lot about my personal life, but I used to work at a place. I'm not going to give any names out, by the way. And the boss of this place, he was clearly a psychopathic individual. Clearly, he had so many traits now. When I think of what I've learned, and I think back to him, there was this one lady, very pleasant lady, very, very sensitive soul. I actually got on really well with her, and she was very bubbly. She liked to joke, and she liked to sort of be the centre of attention. Not in a me way. Just in a she liked people. She liked to entertain people. She was a natural born entertainer. Every time she'd do it, he would shame her, because he saw that light growing in her. And I used to come home and think, and I used to think about it at depth, and I used to think, he's threatened by her. He's threatened by her light. That's what it is. They see this light in other people, and they want to snuff it out, because it's threatening, because they don't have that. So if I can't have it, nor can anyone else. Very, very predatory behaviour. And, you know, I hope you've got a little bit more insight into what gaslighting is. It's a very basic video. I like to keep my videos as basic as I can and deliver the truth in a sort of streamlined effect. But that's what it's about. And these individuals, and you know, maybe you've watched this video and it's brought something up for you and think, blimey, this has been happening to me. You know, it does go on. It goes on a lot, and it's something we need to start looking at as a society and stop running from. You know, that evil does exist. End of story. There's no such thing as dark knowledge, as I said. We have to look at it so we can incorporate it. We can rise above it, because now I've looked at gaslighting. I can see it. I can see how it. If someone was to do that to me, I would stop it immediately. There's no way I'd be gaslighted, because I understand it and I understand what it's actually about. So that's what these videos are about. They're about empowering people. You know. I hope you enjoyed that video. My next one is prepped and ready to go, but when I get the time to invest, I'll record it, and it's going to be EFT, more emotional freedom techniques, but I'm going to talk you through the movie technique and show you how to work with trauma, because unresolved trauma, as I've said, goes on and you end up spreading it to other people. Unfortunately, that's the way it works, but you know, the more we know psychologically about ourselves, the more we can help ourselves and others. Alright guys, take care.